Hey, g'day guys, here we are, it's Chat with Matt, 14th of August 2019. Whew, here we go. What's up, who's next? Let me have a quick look. I did look earlier this morning, there was nothing, and I reached out in a few different ways, so we'll see if something's popped up. I'm on completely the wrong page here. So anyway, this is 30 minutes with me. If you get on live, which no one is yet, you can ask a question, any question. I am here to serve. Scrolling down the list of posts. Okay, well, I'm on my own for now. So, what are we going to talk about then? He said to himself. He said to himself, what are we going to talk about? Saying yes, right? That's what I did a little post yesterday, and I've been writing about it recently, about saying yes, you know, and for many of us as people pleasers or recovering people pleasers, hey, Sister Cat, ask a question if you wish. I'm talking about yes to start with, a dangerous little word for those of us who are people pleasers, and many of us have an interesting relationship with it. We're very, very quick to say yes to other people. Hey, Sister Jeanette, very quickly to say yes to other people and not so quick to say yes to ourselves, right? We put our own needs aside and keep pleasing others, keep saying yes to things that don't really serve us, in order to keep appeasing people so that we win their appreciation, admiration, quote unquote love, and thus maintain our safety, right? Our place in the world, in society, in our circle, where we feel that if we keep pleasing them, then they will look after us if the SH1T hits the fan. Presumably. But I'm not so much going to talk about maintaining boundaries, well, maybe I will, but what I really want to talk about is the fact that it's all very well, right? And it's not very well to keep pleasing others and to keep sacrificing ourselves to do so. But what we really miss out on is many of us are so slow to actually say yes to ourselves when we have an opportunity to do something that's beneficial. What can say yes to ourselves? What can say yes to ourselves? Oh, I see, what? Comma, we can. Yes, we can say yes to ourselves. I know, Jeanette, you are, you know, you're well aligned with this topic. You've got good experience in this topic, right? And it's something I know you are dancing with currently. And it's difficult, right? Because we've built up an expectation around ourselves with these people who have been in our lives for decades, with us continually saying yes to them. There's now habitual expectations there that they're expecting us to say yes. And so for us now to say no to someone else, we're actually doing something for ourselves, or something that serves ourselves, which will ultimately serve them anyway. It's not like we're throwing, it's not like we're harming them in any way. We're actually doing what's going to serve them the best in the long run, but it's going against what they're expecting, right? And that is scary. People don't like change. None of us like change from an egoic perspective. And so when we change in the eyes of others, that scares them and they make us wrong for it, right? And so now not only are we dealing with our own internal habits and, oh my God, I'm going to do something for myself, but now we've got this pushback coming from people around us who are saying, what the F's going on? You're just supposed to roll over and do what I want, aren't you? That's what we've been doing for the last few decades. I quite like that. It's been working well for me. In their perspective, right? Because it makes them feel powerful that someone's willing to help them at the drop of a hat, to their order, not to what's actually serving us. Ultimately, we are going to help them more when we help them understand that our needs are important as well, and that as they develop a level of sensitivity in how they ask for our help, and when they ask for our help, that will ultimately serve them as well. But at first, of course, it's a difficult unraveling. It's a difficult unraveling. So, hey, Sister Shelley, welcome. So saying yes to ourselves is requires us to find a level of dedication and even a level of discipline. And, I know a lot of people have problems with that word. So loving discipline, right? Discipline from... Yeah, a bitch of a witch, Jeanette. And, it's not just about saying no to others for the sake of it. It's about feeling into our heart and being willing to perhaps as a compromise. Perhaps it's not clearly yes or no. It's like, well, how can we both have our needs met here? How can we bring some communication and some understanding into our relationship and the request that you have to receive some of my help in a way that's not sacrificial to me, right? And sometimes it's just a bit of a reframe around this, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a cataclysmic no from us. It just requires some better communication around how this thing's going to unfold, and it's not just going to be purely on their terms with no consideration of our needs and desires and sensitivities as well in the equation, right? In the equation. So, Sister Shelley, welcome. So saying yes to ourselves and actually following our heart is an unraveling of old habits, and that is not necessarily so easy, but it is definitely very, very beneficial. And so doing it, though, requires a dedication, and it requires a commitment to ourselves from a very loving space. And with that commitment, we also must be willing to be compassionate and allowing for the fact that it's not going to be easy. And there is going to be some pushback from inside of ourselves and from outside of ourselves. As we start saying yes to ourselves, we are going to we're going to be challenged on it. We're going to be challenged internally, feeling a little bit guilty about doing it for ourselves. And it's not, and the pleasure of saying yes to ourselves is not going to be immediately available. There'll be a hit of satisfaction, but there'll be this afterwash of guilt that comes with it, that, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, right? Which will then most likely be reflected back from outside. Someone else will turn up and make us wrong in some way, right? Calling us not just a witch, but a bitch, for actually doing what we feel to do without actually just sacrificing ourselves, throwing ourselves under the bus. And so you have to be willing to navigate that process in order... Righto, who's putting frogs in my throat? You have to be willing to navigate that process in order to have the more expansive outcome, which will come after you have cleared your resistance and your programming around the fact that you're supposed to keep sacrificing yourself, right? That takes time. It takes time. And being willing to progress through that process is definitely very, very important. And I use that word on purpose in that case. It is important that we are willing to embrace the process of making the transformations. Hey, Sister MK, welcome. Talking about saying yes to yourself. And I'm very happy for any questions to come in, please. If you have a question, it can be a completely different topic or on the same topic or thereabouts. We're happy to dance with whatever. So yeah, Jeanette, it is a matter of maintaining some sort of armor, but I'd encourage that armor to be relatively flexible, right? Don't wall yourself up and be on the back foot. It is about having a little bit of thicker skin for sure, but what really comes down to is bringing awareness to the process, so that when someone reflects back to ourselves, our own guilt for stepping up for ourself. Oh my goodness, that's interesting, MK. I'll get to that in a moment. But as we choose to step forward into saying yes for ourselves, and the necessary pushback comes, it's a matter of choosing to breathe through it and remember that this pushback is not an attack on us. It's basically an opportunity to clear the energy that's kept us stuck in sacrifice for decades. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing that people reflect back to us our own fears and doubts and all the rest of it. I was just contemplating something that's a little bit off topic, but on a similar line to what I was just talking about then this morning in my meditation, the fact that quite a bit of the trolley sort of comments I get on my posts are to do with how I look, right? I get more comments about needing a haircut than anything else, which is, to me, it's just freaking ludicrous, of all of the controversial points of view I'm putting out there, right? And I'm sure these people haven't actually read the post or listened to the video, right? They've just seen the fact that it's a sponsored, post, that I've boosted it out there to reach new people, and so push back against that and make some comment that, go help, why don't you help real people and get a haircut? It's like, okay, right? If that's the best that you can criticize me on, I'm doing okay. But at the same point, I'm sitting there this morning in my meditation thinking, why am I attracting those comments? Is there really a deep subconscious thing going on inside of me that, my hair is not appropriate for who I am? Or something like that my hair is actually quite offensive and wrong. And, I know it's not a conventional quote unquote haircut. It's not a haircut, right? It's just a massive hair that hangs off the side of my head because I'm bald on top. But I quite like it. It feels energetically like it suits me, right? So I'm not in any hurry to change it, but I'm interested in why so many people decide that that's a point that I need to be attacked on. So it's interesting, right? That we do attract this push from quote unquote external factors, people, things in our life. Are you happy that you just said no to someone else, Jeanette? Anyway, point being that when these pushbacks come from outside of us, it is an opportunity for us to receive that pushback in a way that disempowers it, right? In a way that releases us from the influence of it. So we receive it, we recognize it, we find acceptance around it, we don't have to suppress it, and yet at the same time we choose not to act on it, right? We choose not to let it overly influence us. So we can accept and acknowledge that someone's pushing back against us because they don't like what we've done in for whatever reason. But if we choose to just go, oh, well, that's their stuff, right, and not take it on board, not choose to overly worry about it, consider it, and definitely change our actions around it, then stuff shifts, right? Well, it's all, Jeanette, why do I worry about sheep? Because they push trigger points, right? When someone attacks you on how you look, it's personal. It's personal. And while I try not to quote unquote worry about it, it's definitely a point of interest to Matt's ego, right? Why people are attacking me based on how I look. Because it's fundamental to my survival on an egoic level that people appreciate me in some way. And so it's inevitable that when you get these, and I've talked to quite a few and listened to quite a few people who are much further up the ladder of popularity and influence than I, and it affects them all. It affects them all. Very few people can receive these these trolley hateful comments on their content without allowing it to affect them on some level, right? And so, but to what level does it affect you, and whether you allow it to start influencing your behavior, and whether you start pushing back against it, whether you start resisting it and feeding it, right? That's the point. If you wish to be successful and keep posting out content and influencing people in an empowered way, then you must be willing to receive and acknowledge that, others, the sheep, are pushing back against you. And while it does influence and hurt on a level, that it doesn't, take your attention in a way that influences your ability to keep influencing in a positive way. So it's a dance, and you can't just ignore it. I know people say, oh, we just ignore it. You try. You try ignoring it when you wake up and see 3 comments on your stuff that says, stop spamming me, you F-wit, and stuff like that, right? Because we're sensitive. everyone's sensitive to a level. And, I was just talking with James, my mentor. He, wrote a post just recently about, a scathing pushback that he received. And he said, yeah, I choose to turn it around, but at first it touches you, right? You can't help not be touched when someone goes to that level. Yeah, it is, a level of jealousy and nastiness, but it's basically them expressing their suppressed pain. That's what it is. It's their pain, and I have great empathy for these people who are acting out in these ways, in hateful ways, because and I do reply in gentle ways, because that's because they need love. That's what they need. That's what they're reaching out for. They don't know how to ask for it in a in a socially acceptable way. They're like a child who's not getting enough attention. They're acting out because they're in pain. These people are in pain. That's why they're behaving the way they're behaving. So we understand that, but still, very few people are able to, I guess it's a matter of building up your tolerance to it. And at first, of course, it feels like a real threat. It definitely feels like a real threat. You can't deny the fear-based response that your body has when you receive comments that are basically hateful towards you. It's definitely not a comfortable feeling, I'm here to tell you. And yet at the same time, we can rationalize it and understand it and breathe through it and move through it. And as we do that, we develop a tolerance that the initial reaction is not so intense when someone, quote unquote, attacks us about whatever reason they're attacking us. I'm all for people debating the point, debating the content that I'm putting out there. I'm very happy to receive pushback that's constructive and says, well, I don't believe that. What about this and what about that? And we can have that discussion, right? I'm not here as a dictator. I'm not here that it's my way or the highway. I'm very happy to talk about the content, very happy, but I don't get much of that, right? That doesn't happen very often. Most of all, it's either, yeah, thank you very much, I really appreciate that, or, you're a nasty person, or you're an F-wit or a whatever, stop spamming me. And of course, at that point, I usually write back and say, thanks for your comment. Now that you've commented on my post, you're sure to see all of it, right? Because that's the truth. What you focus on, you get. And when they focus, their hate towards me, then I know I'm going to keep showing up in their feed, which is a little concerning for me as well. And, I hope that some of those people do find the hide button, without having to tell them how to use Facebook, so that they can stop seeing my stuff if it's irritating them. Because I don't particularly want to irritate people. Because I know I can't really help them when they're in that state. So what's the point, right? I'd much rather just them go away. I'm not going to block them, because that's not unless they go over the line, and there definitely is a line. Oh, you should see my Facebook drilling down. If I actually showed you the demographics that I'm targeting, I actually use 3 levels, Jeanette, of targeting. So the first is quite general: spirituality, meditation, healing, right? They have to fit into that category to start with. Then there's another level under that, which are coaches, facilitators, right? All these job demographics that I'm looking to reach. And then under that, there's another level, believe it or not, where I go into people who are follow Tony Robbins, follow other names who do similar work to me. They have to fit into all 3 of those categories. It's not one or the other. It's all 3 of those categories, supposedly, before Facebook shows me their post, before Facebook shows them my post, right? Theoretically, they're supposed to be in all 3 of those categories, and yet I get people who obviously aren't. So, while Facebook tries to categorize people and put them in buckets where they know what they are and who they are and what they like, it doesn't always seem to work. But of course, I think some of these people who have seen other people's posts, like spiritual posts and that, and they keep fighting against it, Facebook categorizes them as actually liking that stuff, right? Because they're a professional troll, and they're probably not being paid to troll, but because they do a lot of trolling and pushing back, then they find themselves, Facebook basically categorizes them as they like this content. Facebook doesn't actually read your comments and say that's a nice comment or that's a ugly comment. Facebook basically just goes, they commented, they're interested in that, put them in that category, right? So these trolls are in these categories because they keep commenting on stuff that's in those categories. And, you know, I wrote a post not so long ago that Facebook, that the universe is basically exactly the same. What you push back against, the universe is categorizing you as being interested in that. And thus it shows you more of that stuff, right? If you keep resisting, you keep getting it, because what you focus on, you feed, and what you feed will grow stronger in your life. And that's Facebook algorithm is exactly the same. What you're pushing back against, Facebook shows you more of it. Because it's into, you know, engagement is the number one metric that Facebook uses. If you engage with something, Facebook puts a big tick next to that and shows you more of it. Doesn't matter how you engage, doesn't matter if you put the angry face, the sad face, or the happy face, Facebook goes, yep, you're into it. If you write a comment, you're into it. If you click on it, you're into it, right? And that's it. If you don't want to see stuff on your feed, then you have to ignore it. Or even better, go up to a little button on the top and hit hide this content, right? And Facebook actually gives you an option, hide this content and similar posts, right? And Facebook does that for you. It's very, very, very malleable. You can really cater or tailor your Facebook feed to serve you if you're willing to take the actions, right? If you're willing to actually hide the stuff that you don't like seeing consistently, then very quickly, like in a matter of weeks, your Facebook feed will look completely different. And if you only click on stuff that you are actually interested in and that you do actually like, and that even includes pausing and watching videos, right? I noticed that I paused and watched a couple of cooking videos, and I didn't watch them for very long, right? I was just, because I must have been hungry at the time, right? And I'm just scrolling down my Facebook feed, which I try not to do very often. But there I was scrolling down, saw a thing on cooking, and started watching it. And next minute, within days, I noticed that Facebook was showing me more and more and more and more of these cooking freaking videos, to the point where I had to go through and start hiding them all, and now I don't see them again, right? So you need to be willing to work with Facebook in a way that it serves you, so that you get the best experience. The universe is exactly the same, right? I've put two posts on, and I've actually written to these trolls in the comments underneath and explained this exact content to them, and still they just go F off. Right? That's it. It's they don't want to know. They don't want to know. I actually, funnily enough, I actually did the post on Facebook is exactly like the universe and explained this whole thing, and someone underneath wrote, F off spammer, I don't want to see your stuff. And I just laughed underneath and said, maybe you should have read what I've just posted above instead of comment straight away. And then it was actually a she troll, because they do exist. I know most of them are men, but it's true, this was a she. And she actually wrote back like 5 minutes later, and she was laughing. Because she basically said, I don't want to see any more of this rubbish content. And I basically said, my quote unquote rubbish content is actually to illuminate you. And she wrote back underneath and said, actually, I've just read it. Thank you very much. So I actually converted one. I've had one victory. But in general, it's very hard to educate people who have got cotton wool in their ears and a preconceived idea in their mind. It's very hard. And, and I'm not going to lose sleep over trying, because I'm here to educate those who are into it, right? I'm here to help people who are aligned with what I do and what I'm here to share. Anyway, I know I missed some comments as I was ranting. Hey, Sister Meg, how are you? Hey, Sister Emily Rose. All right, broken toe. Out of your hands or out of your feet, MK? MK's broke her toes. MK was working, for those of you who don't know, assembling IKEA furniture, which was kind of a nice distraction for MK for actually doing her service work, because it earned some money, and money was important. So she's broken her toe now, and she basically wrote in and said, my body and higher self took the decision out of my hands and into your feet, right? So anyway, MK, the point is, how are you going to utilize your time now that you are completely capable of doing all sorts of things other than walking around and assembling furniture. So fantastic opportunity, choose not to waste it, right? Choose not to waste the fact that higher self and your body has helped, she's a trolley, yeah. I'm sure we used to have a term for trolleys, right? Like a trolley pusher, but okay, awesome, Meg. Meg's written in, said, speaking of what we resist persists, I met with a client today who has struggled with binging and weight loss gain for... See more. Here we go. For many years. She said she was tired of thinking about food and numbers and didn't want to think about it anymore. I talked to her about allowing and accepting that it was where she is right now and perhaps accepting that it would help her to move through faster, but I had a hard time explaining what that would actually look like for her, the accepting. Yeah, you know, it is hard. It's basically the accepting is a relaxation out of feeling wrong about herself, right? It's just a softening of the situation, and in that, a space arises that you could help her to direct her attention toward the outcome that she desires, without having a story about having to count calories and try and limit this and restrict that, so that she can find, you know, an allowance about where she is right now, and still an intention to move into a quote-unquote better representation of what joy looks like for her in the future. And so it's not easy. It's not easy to coach people out of relaxing, out of the feeling that they're wrong, because society's such a bugger, right? It's really made, you know, overweight wrong. And some people are just really genetically disposed to being of that size. And it's not, you know, there's more and more studies coming out that in many ways it's not that unhealthy, especially if you can be that size happy, right? What's the biggest predisposition to getting sick is unhappiness, right? Is stress. And making yourself wrong is inherently stressful, right? Because if you've already put yourself in the wrong bucket, then you're totally on guard with everything you do throughout your day, because if you're already feeling wrong about yourself, you're expecting to be attacked. And of course, with that expectation, it comes in various ways. People say things, they don't even mean to be mean, but from your perspective, they're being mean. They're actually pointing out your weight or something else that's wrong about you, your hair, right, as I was talking about earlier, in the thing, right, in the conversation. If we've got a predisposition to not being good enough, to being wrong, then we basically put out an invitation that people are, you know, can attack us. And they might say something that's not particularly intended to be an attack, but we take it as an attack. So it is an attack, right? If we take it as an attack, then it's an attack, even if it wasn't their exact intention to attack us. I've missed a whole heap of comments here. Awesome, MK. I'm glad you're working on a story. What's it a story about? Also spending some time with my website community. Realized a couple of weeks ago that they are who I am to serve now. Is this your baseball community or another website community? Because, you know, you could cross over a lot there, MK. I know specifically they're there for baseball, but you can weave a lot of good stuff into baseball stories. You know, you can put quite a few of your points of view into talking about baseball in a way that many of them will get. Anyway. Yeah, so exactly, Meg. So Meg wrote in and said, I did remind her that she's not wrong for being where she's at, and it brought her to tears. Basically, that's a release of the wrongness that she's been carrying, the burden of the wrongness that she's been feeling. Or when someone actually gives her, you know, permission to feel, you know, okay about herself, then there's a release, and that's really, really beneficial. She's probably got a lot more of that wrongness she's probably been carrying since childhood, to release, right? It's, weight gain as well, and body issues in general quite often stem from our childhood and early programming that we receive about what's good and what's acceptable and who we are and how we should be in the world, and it's powerful. So yes, awesome work, and understand that these issues are decades in the making, and so it's going to take a little while, for people to unravel out of that, and it has to be a process, and we need to give them permission and the idea that it's going to take time, and that's okay, and then help them find ongoing support in the form of a community or something or someone to help them progress through the process. Awesome, MK, I love that. Story is that fan fiction, right? Fanfic about sexual discovery. Awesome, great topic, right? Great topic, and I don't know much about fan fiction at all, if that's the correct term, because as a dyslexic, I was not an avid reader at all, especially of fiction. Perfect. How are we going for time, my friends? Look at that. We've done it. That was it. That was Chat with Matt for the 14th of August. I'll be here again next week. The week after is a little bit unsure, because I think I'm going to be... Is it actually just the week after? It is. It's like in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be on my way to Komodo Island, which is pretty exciting, right? Talk about saying yes to yourself. Ticking that one off the bucket list. Marie and I are actually going out to see the Komodo dragons when we first get to Bali. I think that will be this time in 2 weeks' time, or it might be the day after. I might be available. I'll have a look at my thing right now. No, I do believe I'll be on my way to Komodo Island. I don't think we'll be there yet, but we'll probably have flown to... No, this time of the morning I won't. I might even be able to slip this in from Bali from the airport or something. So we'll just see. Stand by for that. That's in 2 weeks' time. August, the last week of August and September is going to be a little bit messy for me, in terms of the fact that I'll be in Bali delivering retreats and doing all sorts of other good stuff, including going out to Komodo Island. But I will endeavour to show up as much as I can, and we will just see how it unravels. I'm going to have to be a little bit more flexible with how we fit this stuff in. But this time's generally pretty good, because this time's like 9 a.m. here in New Zealand is 5 a.m. over there, which is actually, I know that sounds really early, but in the tropics it's not. It's quite a good time. And especially with the time zone change of us getting there, we're usually up and around and off to the beach and stuff at 5 a.m. So I might be able to get this sort of stuff in as well. It might just change by a day or two to meet other requirements. When I'm on retreat though, I'm pretty much there for the participants, and it's not so easy for me to get away. And especially where we're doing the retreats, cellular coverage is very poor, and the Wi-Fi at the retreat venue itself is not so strong and not so plentiful, and gets turned off at night. So we will just see. If you're keen to come, right, because I'm doing a retreat 8th to the 14th of September and there's still some spaces left, reach out, right? If you're keen to grab a last minute, well, it's not even that last minute. Some people are very good at making those sorts of decisions. It's still sort of 3.5 weeks away. But if you are keen, then please pop along. Maybe it's only 2.5 weeks away. I'm not sure. But anyway, the 8th of September, if you can get yourself to Bali for that, it's going to be an awesome retreat. It's going to be such a cool time to hang out and spend some time and do some nice facilitation and transformation and a lot of customization of your particular issues. We're going to work a lot with the, bright light attraction process framework. Basically, how to bring your best life to you by being it yourself, helping your energy shift and be seen so that it can resonate out there into the world and attract the people and the experiences that are most sustaining for you, whether they be clients or whether they be soulmates and friends, or whether it be business opportunities or life opportunities. It's all the same, really. Everything's just energy. Anyway, my friends, that's it. I've gone over time just for a change. Much love to you all. Reach out if you have any questions. I'll be here same time, same place next week for sure. And then we'll see what goes from there. Much love. Bye for now.